Hi and welcome to my channel. In this video I'll show you how to replace the front Airmatic shocks on a W220 Mercedes-Benz. This applies to the 2000 to 2006 S500 and S430 models, as well as I believe one other, the 2006 S320. The shocks are from Arnott. You can buy Mercedes-Benz shocks a little more expensive nowadays, probably as of November of 2022. Probably you can get them for a little over $450 to $500 directly from the dealer, or you can get them from online stores such as Auto House AZ and FCP Euro for about $360. And if your car is very old, you could also get the knockoff Chinese versions for just a little over $100 from Amazon, eBay. There are a lot of them. But anyway, I'm using the Arnott version for $360. They do charge FCP Euro charges for the core, so you have to return the old shocks to get $100 per side back. But the good thing, not a sponsor by the way, but the good thing is that anything you purchase from FCP Euro is lifetime warranted. You undo the negative black cable from the battery in the trunk, and then leave the trunk open just in case you don't have your manual key, because once the battery is disconnected you cannot open the trunk with the fob. And then remove, there are 3 cables that you have to remove from their holders. They could be a little tight in place, so you can pull them out or use a flat-headed screwdriver to excuse me, open up the holders as you pull out. And then this little bracket, you just push forward and it comes out. So there's a spring clip that you press down, just like you see me do here. You can press it down, and then with the flat-headed screwdriver push out the plug. This is a combination plug. By the way, that the spring clip, you can also pull it up. That's another way. I show that in another video. But this will have, this is a combination of 2 plugs. The speed sensor, ABS sensor, as well as the plug for the shock. And there are 2 tabs on 2 sides, and that's how they kind of are put together. You can easily separate them, or you can press them together, and then you'll hear a little click, and they'll go back together just as easily. The shock is held to the lower control arm by 2 bolts. You want to make sure that using a 5mm Allen socket, that your turns are steady, intentional, and controlled. 90° to the bolt. You have to press it inwards and hold it to steady, and especially the first turn or 2, so that you don't wear out the inside, or you would have to then cut out the shock if you destroy the inside of that bolt. And of course it's the old shock, and if that happens, you would have to do that. But with a steady hands in a controlled manner, you open these 2, one on each side, bolts. And the same way when you install it, you have to do it gradually and in a controlled manner. So it's held with these two bolts to the bottom control arm, and then three nuts on the top in the engine bay, as you'll see in a little while. And so if you have an impact gun, you can save time. Once you have turned it a few times, then you can remove it fast. Here I'm showing in detail how to open up the hood all the way up. Now, as to when you should do this, the reason I'm doing it is because the rubber boot on one of the shocks was completely gone, torn out, and also I could tell this car is about 149,000 miles. So now, if you have the scanner, behind the scanner, the Mercedes-Benz system, you can release the pressure using the software, but otherwise turn this out, just this nut, just a few turns until you hear a hissing noise, so the pressure in the air will come out. Just leave it for a few seconds and keep turning. I mean, you can do it all at once, but just do it gradually. It's not so much pressure that it would hurt anything. But anyway, so there are three nuts here that you'll have to remove also. And then pretty much the shock drops down. But so this car has got about 149,000 miles, and the ride was no longer the same as before. So what I recommend is that between 100 to 150,000 miles, if you do this, you will your car will drive just as smooth as day one. And especially for the front shocks, it really makes a world of difference. These cars, the W220, I mean, I've driven the 221 and even 222 models. They may have better technology and better sound insulation, but beyond that, really, in terms of the ride itself, I don't think any of them are as smooth as this car or this model. And so you can cover the line with something so nothing gets in. These little silicone nipples, or whatever they're called, I purchased from Amazon, a package of 100 different sizes, quite cheap. So, or you can find anything to plug the line. These are 13 millimeters. So you'll need a couple of pry bars, and this is what the workshop manual also suggests. So you can put one there on top and then one in the bottom, prying the shock up and the control arm down until it comes out. It may take you more than just a couple of tries, but it will come out. So this way you don't really have to remove the upper control arm. Now the car wasn't high enough, so I couldn't remove it from that side, but then you can maneuver it and remove it from the other side. So this is the new shock, and either you'll hold it with one hand and with the left hand go up and mount a couple of the nuts, or have a helper do that for you. And make sure the alignment is correct. Pay attention to how the old one was installed. And then again, with the same pry bar, you can lift it and place it directly on the bushing of the lower control arm. Pay attention that you don't damage the two bolts. You can remove those beforehand, or if you leave them there, just pay attention that you don't damage them with the pry bar. So you just maneuver it left and right. And by the way, the top nuts, you don't want to tighten them up at this point. You don't want to tighten them, because if you do, then it will become harder to do this. And then once it's in, you can you can tighten the nuts on top, and not yet torque them. You can torque them later. Again, critical, as I mentioned before, that you do this. Don't do this with an impact gun, the tightening part. Do it by hand. It will take a long time, but that's okay. You cannot be a do-it-yourself mechanic without patience. The the blue shavings that you saw are actually the blue Loctite that is pre-applied to the bolts. And I have in the very beginning, and also I'll try to put the torque values for all of these bolts and nuts. Once you've torqued the bottom bolts, then you can torque these nuts. And the last part of the job is to reconnect the airline, but I will show that to you on the passenger side. The plug also, by the way, it needs to be plugged back in. You just move the air height sensor to the right a little bit, and make sure that the plug is going behind those other cables, and that you hear a distinct click from the little spring clip that you left there. If you pressed it down, if you had removed it, then at this point you want to press the plug all the way in, and then replace the spring clip. So the rest of this is self-explanatory. It's the reverse of the install. And here's a close-up of the bad shock. So this is the passenger side, and I'm showing here one other method that you can use in case you were unable to remove the shock. Then you could separate the upper wishbone or control arm from the steering knuckle using a universal ball joint separator. Be prepared for a little explosive sound that will come in just a minute. You want to undo the nut, not all the way. The nut that's holding the steering knuckle to the upper control arm as you do the separation, and then remove the nut. So this allows you to move the steering knuckle out, and then gives you more room to place the shock on and center it to the ball joint and the lower control arm. The R-nut shocks come with these connectors. You don't have to replace them, but if you don't replace them, replace at least the washer, the black washer that's there. It's best to replace the whole thing. So, and it's not hard at all. You just pull it out, pull out the copper washer first, and then the rest of it. This copper washer or bronze washer, whatever it is, has a tapered side. The tapered side has to go towards the airline, not towards the shock. It also has an opening there that you can separate and make it easier to remove and to put back in the new one. I didn't do that. I'm just pressing it using my nails. And you want to press it in until about 3 or 4 millimeters of the airline starts to appear, as you can see right here. That's enough. And then you insert it, and then there's one other critical part. So you thread the nut, and then what you have to do is press the airline as far as it goes until it stops, and keep it pressed as you tighten the nut. And then using a cross socket, torque it so that you won't have any air leak issues in the future. So once you're done with both sides, then you want to lower the car, but to still keep it on the jack. Just barely enough so that the bottom covers don't touch the jack handle. And you want to do that in case you have any leaks or any issues, because otherwise the car will drop down. Okay. So, and then replace the negative battery cable and turn on the engine. And as you turn on the engine, then the car will automatically rise, and then if it does, you know that the job was successful. At that point, you can remove the jack and take it for a test drive, and you'll be happy that you have restored your car's ride to the original factory smooth ride. I hope you find this video useful, and I will talk to you later. Thank you. Bye-bye.